As we close out the semester in Foundations of Business, we're going to talk about a topic that we could spend a good part of an entire semester talking about, and that's personal finance. I'm going to touch on a few topics very briefly in this presentation, and I'm going to share with you some of my life experiences. Honestly, I think this is one of the most important lessons you're ever going to hear in college. For some of you, a lesson like this comes very naturally. To some of you, it's going to sound very foreign and very hard, but it's just going to be very important. So we're going to talk about four basic things in this idea of personal finance: a budget, your credit score, and a credit report, which is closely tied to that, and then just the importance of this in as we can see it illustrated through the issue of compound interest. So let me share with you some hard thoughts up front. The first is people with bad financial habits subsidize people with good financial habits. Honestly, what's happening is every day there are poor people or people who have bad habits that are handing money to more affluent people. And you're like, I don't see that happening. What do you mean? So let me give you a personal example. I'm 60 years old. I've carried credit cards for all of my life. I have probably paid a sum total of maybe $50 in credit card interest in my entire life. And I use my credit cards a lot. I pay most of my bills and um, I don't carry much cash. I pay for everything with a credit card. Why? I was one of those first people very early on that had a card where I got cash back on my purchases. I still get cash back on my purchases. I get way more cash back on my purchases than I pay in credit card fees, and I don't pay any interest. So I'm getting money back. How can a credit card company possibly afford to give me all that money back when I never pay them interest and I never pay a late fee and I never pay anything like that? The answer is they have a lot of other people who are carrying cards who are paying interest, who are paying late fees, and yes, they're getting some cash back, but they're making more money on them. So, in essence, the fact that my credit card company has people who are paying fees, paying interest and the like, they allow me to use that credit card where I never pay a fee, I never pay any interest, and I get cash back. So in essence, I think all of those other people are subsidizing my usage of the credit card and I get money back. And that's going to happen time after time where you're going to see people who don't have good financial habits pay higher interest, pay additional fees than those who do. And in essence, because a company on average is making that money work out, that means people like me who never pay fees, who never pay interest, we get the benefit of those who do because the company's still going to make this much money. Good financial habits have broad benefits, and I'm going to tell you pretty much uh, what constitutes a good financial habit, which is spending less than you make and having a good financial reserve. And that gets into the next point. When you need it bad, you get it bad. And this is really true in the financial world. You're seeing this right now and you're living this life. You're watching people who, through perhaps no fault of their own, have no financial reserves. And what are they having to do? They're having to take out loans at high rates, they're having to go to pawn shops, or they're losing their businesses because they can't afford to stay open and they can't get the money in the door fast enough through all these government subsidy programs. What you're going to see over the next 6 to 12 months is people who have saved money, who have some assets, are going to have the opportunity to go in and buy up these distressed assets for pennies on the dollar because they have the reserves. When you need it bad, in other words, when you really need money, you're going to get bad terms. And so the way to get around that is to always have a financial reserve. Now, I understand as young people, you haven't had the opportunity to accrue that yet. You get to my age, or even when you get into your 30s and your 40s, you should have a financial reserve and you should not be hanging out like you are. The last point is, and again, these are all interrelated points, companies love modestly irresponsible clients. Let me make this very personal to you. Have you ever paid a late fee, whether it's you paid your apartment rent late, or you paid a credit card payment late, or you paid a car payment late? Companies love that. That is nothing but pure profit. And so every time you pay a late fee, you should just go, ugh, they're making money off of me for nothing. Now, the reason I say they like moderately irresponsible clients is they want you to pay what you owe, but they love when you pay late and they love when you use their interest because that's how they make a lot of money. And will point out that part of the corollary to that is never borrow as much money as someone will loan you. People will loan you amounts of money that you should be able to repay, but you may collect some late fees, you may have some off months in there, you may trip it to a high rate. I'm just going to let you know, if you're ever coming close to the maximum amount of money somebody is willing to loan you, stop. Do not take that loan. I have people that tell me, oh, we'll loan you this much money. You can buy this much of a house. You can buy this much of a car. Don't pay attention to them. They will get you in over your head in a flash. Let's talk about a budget. To some of you, you already have a budget. To some of you, this is laughable. I can tell you that when we first got married, my wife's family laughed at me because we had a family budget. The reason they laughed at me is my father-in-law was very good at making money. And he was also a very tight controller of the budget. The family didn't have a budget is because he never gave them enough money to spend. And he had plenty of money. And he was a wonderful man, incidentally. But they all laughed at my wife because, like, oh, he's making you live under a budget. You know what a budget does? It gets everyone on the same page. It's a tool to make sure that you develop good financial habits. And really, a good financial habit is that you spend less than you earn and that you save for a rainy day. Also, a budget allows you to prioritize. Some of you are operating with very thin financial margins. This is how you see it. And because you can prioritize it, then you can decide, well, I can't afford to do this right now. I'll have to wait till next month or something like that. Again, the principle is always spend less than you earn. You're like, well, wait a minute. That doesn't reflect where I am right now. Then you have two options. You can decrease spending or you can increase earning. Now, when you're in college, you're investing in your future. I want you to do a great job with your college education. When you get out of here, if you find yourself spending more than you earn, then you need to take on a second job, look for a better job, cut back your spending, something like that. Those are just the principles. I'm going to show you an example of a budget. It doesn't really matter what you use. You can use a nice Excel spreadsheet. You can use a napkin. It doesn't matter. Map it out and then don't violate it. All right, next topic is going to be credit ratings and credit reports.